Hello and welcome to yet another episode of If You Know Your History with me, Jonny Owen, and my dear friend...
Mark Webster. Are you ready, John? Are you ready for an episode about a superstar singer who's also affiliated with a football club?
No.
For love.
Do you know when Cardiff played Swansea again for the first time? I think it was 9 years.
Oh, right.
And that song was out all the time. I can remember a song that my mate used to sing. He used to go, "Are you ready? Are you ready for Swansea?"
No!
Yes, I am.
Oh,
They were
please.
so excited about the fact that they
Please
played
tell me
Swansea.
they're really ashamed of themselves. It literally makes no sense for them to do that
No,
to it.
it was just a song. It was the Sky song. Remember they became the Sky song?
Oh, of course, yeah, it was. Well, and of course, weirdly enough, it re-emerged as in that kind of world of guilty pleasures.
Yes, yes.
Which an old pal of mine, Sean
Is he a
Rowley,
guilty pleasure?
Well,
Elton
that
John,
song I don't.
Reg Dwight.
Yeah, Reg Dwight.
Somebody said to me once,
wonder.
ABBA's right, Reg is wrong. I don't believe
No,
that.
it's a tight one. But Are You Ready for Love? He recorded in Philadelphia Record Studio.
Yeah.
It's when he did Philadelphia Freedom.
Oh, okay.
And Philadelphia Freedom, which I didn't know until relatively recently, was the name of Billie Jean King's tennis team that she just set up. And so he kind of recorded the song to try and help finance Billie Jean King's professional tennis outfit.
He's a genius, and also what's interesting about him is there's always that map you see on social media which tells you which county in England have the highest grossing, most successful pop
Right.
act. Spooky Tooth is one of them.
What's that?
You know the band Spooky Tooth?
No,
You don't know the band Spooky Tooth?
I do not know the band Spooky. How can a band called Spooky Tooth
Yeah.
be? And surely it's Tooth.
John,
If you're going to have two
yeah,
O's in Spooky,
Yeah.
you're going to have
Well, you say in England, Tooth.
Teeth.
Tooth. Tooth.
Spooky Tooth.
Spooky Tooth. Spooky Tooth
We'll
was
get
a
back
rock
to that.
band originally from Carlisle and the most successful band ever to come from Cumbria. The most successful artist to come from...
Hold on,
no.
hold on.
This is the way it works. The most successful band to come from Merseyside would be the Beatles. The most successful band to come from Manchester, ironically, are Oasis. The most successful band to come from Glamorgan, or artist, is Tom Jones. Reg Dwight, Elton John, is the biggest from London, which I think is an amazing thing when you think of some of the bands that have come from London and artists. For him to be the biggest selling artist to come from London is massively credible.
That is, and for a sustained period of time, by the way, well done, London Underground, because of course that drags that part of Pinner and Watford and Hertfordshire into the
Which is
argument.
important you should say that because he's a Pinner boy.
Yes.
Born on the 25th of March in 1947, and he's a lifelong Watford fan. And people need to understand this because people often will go, was he a Watford fan? Is he Watford? The one thing with Elton John is this, and I know this from experience because my wife has met him, the man is obsessed with football.
And carries with him the two things I kind of know about Elton John outside of that world. Used to own the biggest record collection in the world, but then auctioned it off for charitable causes. Intimate knowledge of all forms of music and a real fan, hence massive record collection.
And was in the Royal Academy performing that.
But he was that good.
Yeah.
But equally, as you say, carries around with him knowledge of football from when he was literally knee high to a grasshopper. I mean, he didn't get much taller, but quite frankly, it didn't matter.
It's the story Marx always loves. My good wife, Vicky McClure,
Yes,
bumps
met a
into
woman.
Elton
Lovely
John in a
girl.
party, is introduced to him.
This
This
is
is
funny.
just the time she's won the BAFTA for playing Lol in the England. He wants to meet her. He comes over, and his opening line to her is, "Vicky, always wanted to meet you. My cousin played for Nottingham Forest." To which she famously answered, "I'm a Notts County fan."
Wow. Can an entire room fall quiet at the same time?
I mean, keep the conversation going, love.
Do you
It's
know what
Elton
would be
John.
perfect? In a kind of saloon way, if Elton John was playing his own piano at the time and stopped playing when Vicky shut the conversation down immediately. The horror of that moment. Which means we need now to save Vicky's bacon because clearly we need to go away and talk more about his cousin because
This is what he wanted to talk about.
It wasn't a coincidence.
She did say
he's
to me,
a serious player.
I didn't know that his cousin played for Nottingham Forest in the 1959 FA Cup final. I think her actual words to me were, "It's the kind of thing that you would know, Johnny." And I was like,
she wouldn't be wrong.
she would be right. And I wish I was there, and I wish Elton had opened up the conversation like that with me.
You'd still be there now.
Oh, mate, I'd have moved in. I'd be on the board of Watford now.
He's got room in his house. He's got room in his records.
Exactly. No, it's. I just think it's brilliant that he's that enamoured of football that he meets a young actress, and the first thing he wants to talk about is a 1959 footballer.
Yeah,
I think that's brilliant.
And I love the fact that she was that he thinks she's going to be that into it as well, which is so.
But she did say he was
perfect.
lovely, and they had a little bit of a chat about sort of other things and about what she was doing. But she said he was great. But it's interesting to talk about his cousin, who's Roy Dwight.
Yeah.
Elton's father, his name was Stanley, and his brother was called Edwin, and Edwin's son was Roy Dwight, and he was born in 1933, so he's a bit older than Elton.
Yeah.
He's one of those first cousins who's like 10, 12 years older. But he is a prodigious footballer from a young age.
Yes.
Really, really considered excellent from a young boy. And he joins Fulham, Mark. This is Elton John's first cousin, in 1950, on the same day as Bobby Robson.
See, he's immediately aligned with. I mean, not least of which, of course, if he's signed to Fulham with Bobby Robson, he's there when Johnny Haynes is there. He's there when Jimmy Hill is there.
And what is Bobby Robson, as my father would say?
Go on.
A minor.
Of course.
He's a minor.
Of course.
So you got all these beautiful links in British football, English football history. You know, minors, all these different people coming from very working class backgrounds and are linked to Elton John, who's considered to be the ultimate sort of extravagant rock star. But here he is. His first cousins in a football team with a lad who's just come from the pits of the North East, and he's joined Fulham. So they are in Fulham. Considered to be many by London's glamour club at that point, Mark, what do you say, before Chelsea's rise in the 60s?
In terms of the way that Fulham were playing at that particular stage, they had Chelsea were more fluctuating, but Fulham were, I think, the more consistent. And certainly, even though they're kind of perched by the Thames in not quite as big a ground, carried with them the prestige.
Yes.
They were the winners in West London at that stage.
He was playing for Fulham, wasn't he? Is it the boy Cohen or one of the fullbacks? Is he a Fulham
that's right.
player?
George Cohen was exactly.
Fulham, so Fulham had a World Cup player,
Too right.
World Cup winner.
Exactly.
Did West Ham have any? Hey. Anyway, hey.
Moving on. Perhaps that
he's now
be,
tapping his orange trainer there.
Well, let's make that the question, shall we?
Yeah.
And then I'll answer it after the. No.
Yeah. I'll tell you what a question can be.
Go on.
What is the name of the pub in LA that Elton John played in? And famously after that, he broke America.
Oh, right. Okay. I think I do know the name of that one there, because as you're right, because he kind of, as a very serious-ish singer-songwriter who played the piano.
That's right.
Was a bigger hit in the States to start with credibility. But then fundamentally, you might argue, when he decides to throw caution to the wind and just becomes this an enormous flamboyant pop star, he's probably the one who takes glam across the globe.
Yes. He puts the whamming glam.
There you go.
Hamming glam. Hams it up.
He does.
You're right. He's... All to the 60s, we could talk about this. He's a singer-songwriter. He signed with Dick James, who was the Beatles publishers, hanging on the offices. He knew the Beatles. But he's kind of seen as somebody that writes songs for artists.
Yes.
Because of the way he looks, he's prematurely balding, slightly overweight, he wears glasses. Nobody's saying to him, he looks like, I don't know, George Harrison or Mick Jagger.
He's the guy in the band, isn't he?
Yeah.
And of course, he famously, was always one of those legendary pickup artist that would support brilliant Americans that come
That's
over.
right. Play the keyboards.
So he's played with everybody.
Bluesology and those kind of bands he played in.
Yes, exactly.
All
that's
that kind of
right,
stuff. So he's that's in the 60s as he gets into his sort of late teens, early 20s. But when he's a kid, he knows his first cousin is a prolific footballer, brilliant footballer, and his cousin plays for Fulham. He goes to see them a lot, he watches them, and he scores 54 goals in 72 games for Fulham. So it's Roy Dwight.
What a turnaround that is for
proper player.
Yeah.
So he signs then for Nottingham Forest in 1958 for a substantial fee.
You don't have to tell me. Vicky told me.
Yeah. I think he signed for like something like £10,000, a lot of money then. And his only full season at Forest, he scores 26 goals in 41 games. Wow. So he's really spoken about as being a potential England international at this point. In the 1959 Cup final, and again, we always say this to audience, impossible again sometimes to tell you how big the FA Cup final was at this point in the 50s. This is like the FA Cup.
It's the blue ribbon event of the season.
Yes,
really.
not it's arguably the biggest event in British sport.
Yeah,
the FA Cup.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so that's where we are by 1959. A really famous cup final, and he breaks his leg after 33 minutes after scoring. This is Elton John's first cousin, Roy Dwight. They win the cup. They take it back to Nottingham. There's amazing footage. Have you seen of them in the city centre outside what they call the council house, which is the worst name for the most grand-looking building I've ever seen in my life.
Because it's not the council house, it's the council house.
But you think, is it going to be like some council house?
I lived in a council house.
Yeah, exactly. We all live in council houses. But the problem is, it's like this grandest building in the middle of Nottingham, and they call it council house. And the best thing is, I love this, there's such a not sort of like way of talking. And outside it's called Slab Square. So the council house and Slab Square is this
glamour.
Yeah, is this beautiful sort of like English ornate part of a city centre. But I love them.
Is it just up Craft Avenue, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the most downplayed names ever. So they bring the cup back there. Incredible, amazing scenes. The saying goes, amazing scenes. Nottingham Forest are considered to be one of the best teams in the country. He's injured. He's shook his leg, and he comes back. It takes him a year to come back, and he scores on his return. And this is one of the saddest things I've ever read. He shook his head after he scored, running back to the halfway line, and he comes off, and he only plays 2 more games.
Wasn't happening. No.
So sort of injury kind of ruins him. He does go to play non-league. He goes to play for Gravesend. There's even a little moment where Jimmy Hill, his fellow player at Fulham, tries to bring him back to Coventry, but it's not happening for him. So in 1966, in one of those things where you read it and go, what's this? Him, Jimmy Greaves, Kenneth Walthamstow, they're on the pitch.
Exactly.
Who was the other voice on ITV that day? It's a good question.
Oh, is it the old Arsenal fullback? No.
I'll give you a clue. Shall I ask this in the second part? Answer this in the second part.
Please
do.
2
questions to answer. He's Welsh. That's my clue.
Well, I was good. That's no clue.
Okay.
Because he was going to be.
That's only 3 million people. Yeah. So the idea was they were going to go over together, Kenneth Walthamstow, Jimmy Greaves, Roy Dwight, to spread football with the new United Soccer Association, because there's a bit of a flicker of a moment. Mark told me this the other day, I read it, where America's quite interested in football this one because England have won the World Cup, haven't they?
66 becomes a big deal.
Is this true now, or is this you as an Englishman going, when we won the World Cup, it was the biggest World Cup to win ever because this is what we do?
The theory goes.
Everybody Scottish listens going, yeah, we go.
This could be close to the truth.
Is it because of the Beatles and England being the centre of the world?
It's in that territory. And I think what's also great about this is that, because a little bit later on we're going to talk about the fact that obviously Elton goes out there. So Elton kind of follows the yellow brick road that Roy had trodden, and he goes out to the States to be part of that.
I'm still standing listening to this podcast.
Good lad. Needs to know a third Elton John song.
Nobody knows the third one, do they?
My mate Daniel does, but...
Is he mates with Benny and the Jets? Yay! Go on.
In 1966... the World Cup attracts 1 million viewers on American television. It makes America sit up. It's a country full of sport. It's got an infrastructure.
There you go.
But apparently the big deal is, and of course we all know it through this as well, is that FIFA had been making films about their World Cup since 1930.
They're brilliant.
This was this one called Goal! ! First one in colour. Which is why you get that thing. Voiced over by a guy called Nigel Patrick. It's incredible. Because what it does is it gives... there's a sense of majesty and occasion, isn't there?
What about all that stuff of like taking like 10 minutes filming the Italians at an airport, getting off the plane, and not worrying? In the modern world of quick cuts and YouTube and kids on TikTok, this thing goes, Brazil are training somewhere in the Midlands. Here's Brazil.
And it's just quite long, lingering shots and close-ups and silences and birds tweeting. And you go, but it looks amazing.
It's amazing.
Because even in my head, I'd have watched the World Cup in 66 as a kid. I think it was in colour. That's only because I've only ever seen it in colour since then. I'd have watched it on a black and white telly. Of course I would have done. So that happened in that one there. So as a result of that, you get... How
old are you in 20, 21 then?
When was I? I was driving my third car.
Was it the Avenger?
The Model T.
The one you swapped with the bouncer from Gravesend.
From Gravesend for an ex-post office comma van. Correct, John.
I remember seeing...
I'm glad you remembered that. Because it's important. 1967.
You'd have had a good record label, Mark, Avenger. Because you said that the Trojan was named after the van.
Quite.
You'd have had Avenger Records. That's not bad.
Avenger Records would have been the future. And Marvel wouldn't have any problem with that at all, would they?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
That'd be good.
Mind you, if they got away with calling Apple when the Beatles had Apple.
They did let that one go, didn't they? Exactly. It was also Brown Avenger.
Was it?
Like hand-painted it looked as well. So not top end. 67. FIFA sanction this trip, United Soccer Association. So they're trying to get involved in America, but by this weird trick of introducing European and South American teams in. basically sort of like, parachuting in complete ready-made teams to compete in a league simply just by using the territory.
So a bit like the Irish, Scottish and Welsh rugby league is done by having South African rugby teams playing in it.
Yeah,
and it's like, why would you do that? Yeah.
And is this really helping you to grow the game in this country?
Really. Also, away trips. Imagine, you're from, I don't know, Pontfranctfraith and you've got to go to Cape Town.
I'm just wanting to say, the tickets are only $7 and it's only going to cost £14,000 to get there.
Especially then.
Exactly, that's right. On one of the only 2 aeroplanes that ever flies between England and America. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Yeah. You got that one there, but you also have got at the same time the National Professional Soccer League, which is started up because they wouldn't contribute, because basically FIFA wanted money to play in that league as well.
Right.
So they're trying to raise their own cash. So in the end, in December 1967, it's still mainly imported players, but you get the NASL.
Right.
So that's kind of where you're seeing American soccer start to form itself. So Elton comes in a little bit later into the story, but of course, more importantly, I think this is the big thing for me. We've established the fact that Elton John is clearly born and bred a fan, doing exactly what he wants to do. Would you also say, therefore, he's the first time we see a genuinely famous person attaching themselves to a football club unequivocally?
Yeah, I think so. And what I want to do is I want to try and attach some lineage to this.
Yes, please.
His cousin, Roy, who he's very close with, right? He stays out in America.
Yeah.
And he manages the unfortunately named in the modern world Detroit Cougars, with all the connotations that has.
I tell you what.
Don't Google that now.
No. The team picture is not what you think it is.
No, exactly. 2 years later, he comes back, but he's got the American bug.
Yeah.
So I've no doubt that he must have spoken to Elton about this. This
is because this is not a coincidence.
His first cousin goes out to America. He's with Dick James. All these acts that he's writing songs about, flying back and forth to America. He's flying back and forth a fair bit. But what's lovely about Roy is he ends up being a football coach at Forest Hill Boys. Then he ends up later as the assistant racing manager for Greyhounds at Catford Stadium. But I'm going to end this part.
That's the way to finish. That's the way to finish any career, by the way.
Absolutely. But Roy, what a lovely little nod to Roy, because we're going to talk a little bit about Elton and getting hold of Watford and turning them round. But he married the love of his life, Constance Carver, in Dartford in 1954, and the wedding band were late, Mark. So his first cousin Reg got up and played one of his first ever public performances.
Wow!
There you go. We'll speak to you in the second half. Hello and welcome to the second half of Elton John, Elton Town as Mark has called it, Reg Dwight. It's If You Know Your History. I'm Jonny Owen and I'm coming back with 2 answers to 2 questions.
Jonny Owen's got a brace. He's got a brace in this podcast.
Brace. Go, imagine my brace on these teeth.
I would like, how much?
It takes some wire, wouldn't it? It takes some metal.
I tell you what, I wouldn't mind having the salvage. When you're done with that, I could melt that down and I could buy myself that yacht I've been craving.
I could have a bath in it. I could have a tin bath in it. Anyway, the first question is Mark got this, what venue, and our lovely producer John, John 5 times, Johnny Fives, he got both questions right. The famous venue that broke Elton John in America.
It is kind of almost their most famous venue, I guess, in the world, in their country, in terms of that, Troubadour.
And the second question was, who was the other commentator on ITV for the World Cup in 1966?
John Charles.
Welshman. That's a Welshman. You can't just say any Welshman.
I can say any Welsh footballer.
Okay, go on.
And I just did John Charles. Oh.
Hugh Johns.
Oh, actually, of course he was the guy. I didn't know he was... Actually, he's called Hugh.
Hugh Johns.
Hugh.
Yeah.
Hill.
And we used to call him Huge Ones, of course. Hugh Johns, yeah. Who was a legend in Wales.
I loved his voice.
Went back. He was the commentary coordinated very luckily. He went to the Midlands to become the football commentator.
All right.
At the perfect time, Mark. Goes there. Can you imagine this? In 1975-76, just as Clough arrives in his pomp. So all those amazing matches Forest played in the European Cup, that's all Hugh John. John Robertson. What a goal by John Robertson.
He had like a baritone voice, didn't he? Which is like a proper, very not Kenneth Wolstenholme. Yes, quite right.
So anyway, Elton John, by the time of the kind of, I suppose, mid to early 70s, is one of the biggest stars in the world.
Totally.
He is living the LA lifestyle. He's living an LA lifestyle with some abandon. You probably have seen his autobiography, read his books.
Yeah, he's not shy about talking about the lifestyle choice that
he's enjoying the world of rock and roll, let's put it that way. But he's also a massive football fan still. So there's some great photographs of him in kit playing with superstars. Obviously Rod Stewart's in there a lot. They're big mates at the time. The lead singer of Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant, massive Wolves fan. Rod Stewart at that point is like a Scotland fan. Later he says he becomes Celtic fan and all that kind of stuff. But they are sort of seen. And me and Mark had a quick chat about this yesterday, and we need to talk about this a bit more. By the 1980s, pop stars were encouraged not to say that they were football fans. Mark, we talked about this,
or certainly not. Don't be partisan.
Yes.
Don't commit to a club, because you're going to alienate everybody else.
Fans.
And also, of course,
it was a low point for football.
And the indication was as well is that football fans were also a low point in fan base.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of snobbery involved in this, not just fiscal issues.
Yeah.
I think it's basically saying let's appeal to a higher class of fan who's got more money to spend.
Yeah.
Because football is obviously it's staunchly working class sport.
And the vast majority of certainly music journalists at that point would be middle class.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read back now, like an NME from 1974 or a Melody Maker, I mean, these were astonishingly self-important publications in the way that they took themselves very, very seriously.
Quite.
And if you were David Essex, for argument's sake, and you waved your West Ham scarf on top of the Pops, you weren't helping yourself with these people who were really trying to intellectualise music.
It's really until you see the Dannys, Danny Kelly and Danny Baker, turn up at the NME, where you first kind of see the obvious transition, both because they're both in pivotal positions at the NME, that they can not be, they won't be sniffy about the thing they love.
No, but they can't
Two
be.
working class boys who have power and a passion for football along with music.
And it didn't really change until, I don't know, you're not a massive fan, but it didn't change till Oasis. Oasis come along, they're unapologetically...
It's probably that long when it just was. Absolutely takes it on.
Weller talks about it, doesn't he? The fact, he could never say he was a Chelsea fan in the mid-80s, for goodness sake, because of the reputation of the club, and that could damage your reputation with the fan base, or certainly journalists. Whereas Oasis come along, they look like they could have walked off the kickbacks onto the stage at the top of the Pops, unapologetically, and suddenly... Football's making money. 92 has happened. The Big Bang started up. And a lot of people start going, actually, if you say you're into football, it's a really good way of getting a bigger fan base.
Now all of a sudden, we really want those people. We really want their money.
Whereas Elton, huge credit to Elton. Elton, in 76, is buying Watford, and he's unapologetically...
He's flying in the face of... No one's telling Elton John that he can't love Watford and tell you he does.
Absolutely right.
That is simply not happening. And that's why I say... The only other name that I can think of that would be associated with a football club and coming from a different world would be dear old Dickie Attenborough, who was, I think he was like chairman at Chelsea.
On the board at Chelsea in some way. Honorary something.
Whereas Elton was hands dirty,
chairman,
knees muddy,
owner.
directly involved in how he transformed his football club.
I mean, talk about transforming a football club. I mean, and it's no wonder Watford fans absolutely adore the man. Because he does this incredible thing in 1977. April 1977, here's a moment. He's chairman in 76, and in 77 he brings Graham Taylor to the club.
Yeah.
A little bit of background on Graham Taylor. Graham Taylor is he's born in Notts, actually. He's born in Workshop.
All right.
But from a young age, he's brought up in Scunthorpe because his father is a football journalist, a sports writer at Scunthorpe. And he considers himself a Scunthorpe boy. He's an exceptional schoolboy player. Plays for England, might even have been captain. Same teams as David Pleat, same area and team as Ian Storey-Moore. Ray Clements is from there. Kevin Keegan has played over there. He's from Doncaster. So there's this area that's producing a lot of footballers. Graham Taylor's there. But he ends up playing for Grimsby, which is very close, and he ends up at Lincoln City. At Lincoln City, he takes 2 or 3 years, but he takes them up to the 4th Division. Now, here's a lovely moment, Mark, which I know you love. He's at Lincoln. He's now seen as a hot young manager. West Bromwich Albion come in for him.
Right.
Who were in the 1st Division. Watford come in for him, who are owned by Elton John, who are in the 4th Division.
And who are nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah, God bless them.
And he decides to go to Watford on the advice of Don Revie.
Wow.
Now, you wouldn't think Don Revie's going, hang on a minute, here's a flamboyant piano-playing lunatic from LA.
This
is
not the... Yeah, Don Revie would have... I'm going with the other team, if you're asking me which one did Don Revie pick. By the way, I'll mention it here because it makes sense, is that by the time he's come there, he's had 2 years now looking after the Aztecs.
Yeah.
The implication
This is Elton John.
Elton John.
So is he like a financial contributor to them as well? Or is he more just there because he's Elton John?
Directly, but the profile thing is big. But again, he can't
Whereas
stop
Watford,
himself.
he's more hands-on, he's more
Definitely,
money.
he's doing that thing.
Yeah.
But he's arrived at a league when teams like the New York Cosmos are coming through and the team Montreal, team in Toronto, really are helping to grow the game there. But there's also money coming just a few years earlier. Phil Woosnam, who, Welshman, went to West Ham, a hero in America because he went out there again later in life. And stayed there and was part of like the US Football Federation. He's in Mexico City during the World Cup 1970, and he's trying to raise money to develop football in America. And he gets pointed in the direction of a businessman by the name of Nesri Ertegun, of Turkish descent.
Ooh.
But more importantly, Ahmet Ertegun's brother.
No way.
The bloke who started Atlantic
Records.
And so... Which is Aretha Franklin. Well, obviously, they took Stax on.
Yeah.
It's Aretha Franklin. It's Ray Charles in the early
Birthplace
days.
of disco.
They average white band signed directly. Band from Dundee signed directly to America.
How Melvin and the Blue Notes there?
No, they were Philadelphia International.
Right, okay.
But Led Zeppelin.
Ah.
So that's why suddenly, now all of a sudden, Robert Plant getting involved in football all starts to make a little bit of sense. And, of course, the Stones as well.
Yes.
And the Stones are very much part of the New York Cosmos story. So there was this kind of little golden couple of years because it's the same time, as we've discussed before, George Best turns up, Cruyff eventually. Mid to late 70s, it's having a bit of a moment. But more importantly, it gets us back to the fact, let's go back to more humble surroundings because Vicarage Road is, of course, where Elton's heart is.
Just come back to New York Cosmos. It's interesting. People always go, Cosmos stands for cosmopolitan, not the
as opposed to the
space
stars
cosmos,
in the
which is
sky.
what everybody thinks. I think it must be the badge that throws them and the stars on it.
It would be Cosmo.
Yeah, it
makes no sense.
Cosmopolitans, the New York Cosmopolitans.
The fools. Well, the New York Knicks are Knickerbockers.
Knickerbockers. Yeah. So anyway, back to Watford, back to the late 70s.
Right.
There they are, stuck in the 4th division. Graham has made his decision. He's just taken Lincoln up. He's gone back to Watford. And it's mainly because of Elton John. And Elton John and Graham Taylor are very close for the rest of Graham's life, really. Elton talks about him very, very sort of beautifully about how important he was to his football journey and he was the best person he ever worked with in football.
Yeah.
And he has an instant effect there. He gets his first season, he wins the 4th division. Good lad. Just over a year later, 78, 79, he's promotion to the 2nd division. And in 1982, he's promoted to the 1st division mark. So just over a few years, and as somebody said, in 5 years, they've gone from the 4th to the 1st. But in 7 years, they went from 92nd at one point to 1st in the 1st division.
You cannot underestimate what the chairman of this football club would have done to make that right.
I couldn't agree more. And the great thing is, they start the 82-83 season. They're in the 1st division for the first time in, I think maybe never, but for a long time certainly. 4 wins out of 5. They finished 2nd mark behind Liverpool, and I'm going to pass over to you. They qualify for the what we call the Europa Cup, the UEFA Cup as it was then. But there's a gentleman who is the top goal scorer, and his name is Luther Blissett, who goes for £1 million to AC Milan. But tell us a bit about Luther Blissett.
Well, he's obviously main thing. He's easily in the top 3 Luthers ever.
Yeah, name him.
Okay. It's Luther Blissett. I'm not going to do an order. They're all on the podium.
Yeah.
It's Luther Blissett.
Yeah.
It's Luther Vandross.
Of course.
And it's Luther.
What, the Luther?
Idris Elba.
Oh. What about Lex Luthor? Am I allowed there?
Surname.
Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. What a comedic turn that is. I watched that Superman the other day. John, our producer, wasn't so keen, but I thought it was hilarious. The bit where Superman comes in and breaks the door, can't you knock like a normal person? I forgot how funny he was. And the way, and somebody you wouldn't expect. Somebody you wouldn't expect to be able to deliver so beautifully with comedic timing.
He is great. He's hilarious in Silent Movie as well.
Yes.
Like Young Frankenstein.
Young
Frankenstein. He's hilarious in that. But also Tour de Force Birdcage.
Yes.
Just one of them. Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, and Gene Hackman as the stiff upper lip conservative member.
Remember the bit where they think he's just cracked it, and he just puts his leg up and he's got a pink sock on in a really conservative navy suit, and they look at him and say, "Come on," and he just goes, "Surely a bit of colour."
And he waltzes out in drag to We Are Family.
He does,
so that the press can't see him.
Tells you everything.
What a beautiful thing. Yes, but. The guy that you mentioned there, he's important to talk about as part of the kind of tent poles of what you've said here, because Luther Blissett was actually born in Jamaica, but of course he ends up playing for England. And in fact, he scores hat-trick on his debut.
Yeah.
Luxembourg with the opposition probably helped, but still not a bad record to have under there. No, you've got to be done there. 3 stints at Watford he had. He joined them in 74 as a youth, turned pro in 75. Did do AC Milan. He did okay in Milan.
Yeah.
But there was a kind that he was drawn home a bit. And he did famously, because he kind of gets held up as being somewhat caricatured as being the Brit abroad, by making the joke about you can't get Rice Krispies out here. but it was basically because he was asked a dumb question by an English journalist about, what's it like living over here with all this foreign stuff?
Yeah.
And he basically says, it doesn't matter how much money you got here, you can't get rice. That's a good joke. Well done him. He went on as well. One of his little hobbies, I didn't know that one as well, is that love racing cars. He backed a British Tour racing team. He rolled a car in a celebrity race at Silverstone himself. And he also drove for the Alfa Romeo Championship, Luther.
Did he?
But of course, famously, he was pretty ill recently, but he's recovered. Freedom of the town of Watford in 2021, and he's the club ambassador.
Oh, beautiful.
And so whenever you see Elton go back there as well, the joy is he gets to reunite with Luther, and what I love about that in particular, it's like the whole ambassador thing everywhere.
Yeah.
Is you've got that thread of history standing in front of you.
Well, it's nobody better. I mean, John Barnes was there, sort of
course, Barnes,
wonderful player who I'm sure we'll mention him in a podcast. Went on to have an incredible career with Liverpool and England as well. Luther Blissett, probably the most famous, like you're saying, player of that era. But so many good players at that time. Renovation of the ground, all because of Elton.
Yes.
But in 1984, they famously make the FA Cup final, and all the cameras are on Elton because he's married at the time.
Quite right.
Married Renate Blauwell, who's a German sound engineer. Met her in Switzerland. But he marries her, and there's a famous bit, As Abide With Me is played, he's pictured crying because he's so proud that his Watford team are in an FA Cup final.
Yeah, and that's the joy of all of this conversation. It's all real. It's all genuine. There's no show about this.
They lose, sadly, 2-0 to Everton, a very good Everton team. And that Everton team who were winning titles, and they win the European Cup Winners' Cup. That's the team of like Southall, Ratcliffe, Sharp. Really, really good team. So there's no, there's nothing, shame in that at all. They do fantastic. But then there's a moment, I remember this so well, because I had a mate of mine who was a massive Aston Villa fan, Robbie Parker, great lad. And he used to take us up to see Villa play whenever we could. And in 87, Graham Taylor leaves Watford and he goes to Aston Villa. And he takes them up. And the following year, he challenges for a title. And I think when you were talking with this, with me, Mark, it's so sad because Graham Taylor has been tainted by that documentary, which he has. Apparently he approves it.
Yeah, but I think that's the great thing about it. Son of a journalist, it was honest.
Yeah.
But just the fact that it was a unique, groundbreaking way of documentary making, and he happened to just be the guy in the eye of that storm.
Did he not like that documentary? But the thing was, what was interesting when he watched the documentary back now, I mean, the foul, and I say this as a Welshman, who is it, the blonde Dutch kid who's Koeman?
Yeah.
Is it Merson, whoever it is? He practiced, I mean, it's the most cynical, professional foul. He'd have gone now. He'd have been sent off. But he does it, and then he scores the free kick, and England lose the game to Holland.
Oh, the irony.
And the irony. So he's exceptionally unlucky in that documentary as well. There's sliding doors moments where, I mean, obviously he's remembered because in the documentary he substitutes Lineker for his last ever international, I think in the Swedish Euros in 92. But there's moments. But like you said, he's a warts and all man, but he does have a bit of an Indian summer because when he goes back to Watford after the documentary, he actually does pretty well as director of football. And as a manager, he takes them back up again.
And it kind of, I guess if you want it writ large, the difference between managing an international team and being involved in club football is enormous in so many ways.
Yeah.
And you might argue that Graham Taylor's career, which is storied, apart and including that somewhat colourful chapter within there, is almost proof of that.
Yes, it is. But I think, what we can come back to always is Watford are now seen as at least a championship team that should be pushing into the Premier League and were a top-level team for a long time. When Elton John went there, Mark, they were a 4th division team, kind of seen as a bit of a, certainly in London terms, a bit of a rural backwater. Would you really gone to Watford as a player, as a manager? Him going there gave it that spark, that glamour, where he managed to get a manager like Graham Taylor to go there, who managed to get the players there, and they end up as the team they are now with a wonderful stadium, a club with a great history and reputation, that amazing colour of the kid. I think, like you, Elton John, and the fans always say this to me all the time, Elton John was so much a part of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he won't go breaking their heart.
I was going to end it with that, but I'm going to end it with this. Because I can't let him
Please
do it.
No, you don't want to leave that hanging
Well,
in the air.
you know what? I know. That Pinner boy, he loved Watford, and he's now, Mark, because you mentioned lifetime ambassador, Luther Blissett, he's now the honorary life president of Watford Football Club.
Right. And I know for a fact, having spoken to someone recently who works within the Elton John Foundation, he's had his knee done.
Okay.
So he's got a brand new knee.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's wearing his old kneecap on a chain round his neck, which means he's probably available for selection.
Oh, God.
Even better.
You know the drill. If you know your history,
Yes.
subscribe, follow, download, all the rest of it. And Mark, let's keep those jokes at the end coming.
Oh, really?